Hi everyone, it's Nicole, and today I have a designer series project featuring the Mama Elephant Sightseeing stamp set and coordinating creative cuts dies. I created this little scene using the Sightseeing stamp and dies as well as the Landscape Trio dies and the brand new Cityscape die. I first stamped the bus from Sightseeing on some smooth white cardstock, and although I am showing stamping this in the Mama Elephant pigment ink, I did go ahead and use a dye ink in, I believe I used the Schoolhouse Red from Simon Says Stamp. I needed it to just be a little bit darker red than what the apple red was from Mama Elephant. So there wasn't anything wrong with this color of ink. I just didn't like how it looked with my project, so I was going for a deeper, darker red, if that makes sense. Now I could stamp the wheels then directly onto the bus. However, I chose to stamp mine separately and die cut them separately as well. I did stamp the City of Lights there right on the bus so that you can see that you can add that really easily if you want to. I decided not to use it in my final project and instead left the bus stamped in a plain red with the black wheels. There I'm just taping on the coordinating creative cuts dies so that they don't shift when I run them through my Big Shot. Once I have my bus and wheels, I'm ready to start die cutting some of the other components for the card. And I die cut a whole bunch of what I'm calling waves using that Landscape Trio of dies. That Landscape Trio is one of my most used die sets because it can be waves, it can be the ground, there's so many different things you can do and ways you can create wonderful scenes with those. So I used coordinating shades of kind of teals and aquas to die cut several waves. And then I have a piece of vellum cut to an A2 size where I stamped the bridge from the Sightseeing stamp set, and I'm sprinkling it with some gold embossing powder. Now I did miss a tiny little area there, so I did have to restamp that. I just kind of very carefully stamped again and added my embossing powder, and it was just fine. I'll heat set that and set it to the side. I'm also going to die cut this Cityscape out of some slate Simon Says Stamp cardstock. This is their darkest gray cardstock out of the 3 gray cardstocks that they have. And once I have my die cut elements and my background stamping, I'm ready to start putting it all together. For the background of my card, I'm using this cloud paper from My Mind's Eye. This is from a 6x6 paper pad linked below the video on YouTube. And I have used this before on a Mama Elephant project, and I love the size and the whimsical look of these clouds. I think they lend themselves really well for lots of different types of card projects. So I have my card background, the Cityscape die cut from cardstock, and 2 waves. Then I've glued the vellum with the bridge stamped and embossed on it on top of that. And I like how the vellum kind of helps mute the background. It helps give that depth and dimension of a dimensional type scene. And then I'm simply going to adhere a couple more waves above the vellum, on front of the vellum, to help build that scene and finish it off. And then I will glue that little bus in place as well. Now, once I have the scene built, I'm ready to add my greeting. So I'm just going to use the powder tool from Inkadinkado to help keep my embossing powder on my actual stamping and not migrate anywhere else. Then using these little teeny tiny spoons, I'm going to carefully apply the gold embossing powder to the first part of the greeting with more of the typewriter type font. Then I'm going to take some red embossing powder and sprinkle that onto the scripty font that says heart. I love using multiple colors of embossing powder, and by applying it with a small spoon and applying just small bits of embossing powder at a time, you're able to control where it goes quite a bit easier. It also helps to have a larger dish like those plastic dishes you see there that I was putting the embossing powder back in, because you can just dump it right back into the dish and not into a small little jar. Now I've also stamped a small heart there at the end of the greeting, and I will emboss it as well. The little heart is from the Sightseeing stamp set too. So I love using all the little elements to create the scene. Now to finish off the design, which it looks great as it is, but there are these darling little flags that are included in Sightseeing. I'm going to stamp a couple of those with some black ink, and then use the little stripe stamp also included and stamp it with the Schoolhouse red ink to give each of the little flags a little bit of color. Then I will die cut both of these using the coordinating die. And I'm sorry this is a little blurry. I think I was zoomed in a little too close for another part that I was doing, and I forgot to zoom back out. I'm going to adhere those die cut flags now to the top of each side of the bridge using a little zig liquid glue. Make sure I get them lined up there. And you may have noticed throughout the video, anytime I was using the liquid glue, I will set something heavy on top of my card just until that glue dries, which it dries very quickly, and a lot of times I use acrylic blocks. It just keeps everything nice and flat and helps the vellum especially not curl up. The last thing I'm going to do is take some seagulls from the Mama Elephant Sunny Skies stamp set, stamp those with some Versamark around the greeting near the top of the card up around the cityscape, and I will sprinkle them with a little white embossing powder and heat set those, and the card is all done. I hope you've enjoyed this designer series project featuring the Mama Elephant Sightseeing stamp set and dies. The products are listed and linked below the video on YouTube. Thanks for watching, and if you've enjoyed this project, please be sure to subscribe to see more cards and stamping projects similar to this.